Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Modi to share thoughts in 134th episode of his monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat at 11 AM IST. India gets its new Chief of Defence Staff, General NS Raja Subramani, accorded Guard of Honour, pledges to strengthen country's security. US reiterates its warning of attacking Iran if no deal is reached as negotiators work to bridge major differences. Also, Iran Parliament set to vote on Strait of Hormuz management bill. Ebola spread in Congo, deeply alarming as cases nearly double in days. WHO chief visits outbreak hit Bunia, expresses solidarity. And in sports, PSG beat Arsenal 4-3 on penalties to win UEFA Champions League finals. PSG just the 10th team to win successive titles in competition's 71-year history. A ceasefire deal between US and Iran is still elusive as the United States once again warned Tehran that it was more than capable of resuming its war with the Islamic nation. The statement came after President Trump said any peace deal must adhere to his red lines, including Tehran never being able to develop nuclear weapons. Trump said his priorities for any deal included the reopening of the blockaded Strait of Hormuz. In his social media post, Trump said Tehran would remove mines from the Strait of Hormuz and end its closure of the waterway with no tolls, while the US would lift its blockade of Iranian ports. Still, no decision was made on Saturday, even after a 2-hour-long meet in Situation Room. The deal was waiting on Trump's sign-off. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth, while attending a defense summit in Singapore, said that Washington was more than capable of restarting the war if necessary, adding our stockpiles are more than suited for that. Earlier on Saturday, also, the United States warned that it is more than capable of resuming military action against Iran as President Trump insisted that any peace deal must meet his red lines. More details in this report.
The United States warned on Saturday that it is more than capable of resuming military action against Iran if talks fail. The warning comes as President Donald Trump insists that any deal must meet key US conditions, including a commitment from Tehran never to develop nuclear weapons. The proposed agreement would extend the ceasefire by 60 days, while negotiations continue on sanctions relief and Iran's nuclear program. Speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned that America remains prepared to return to military action if talks collapse.
Iran knows very, very clearly what our expectations are, and that's on the negotiating team to deliver. They're coming in our direction. The talks have been productive. I think they know where it needs to go, and I'm quite confident with our president who makes nothing but great deals, that ultimately it'll be something he's proud to defend, that ensures that Iran, which everyone knows should not have a nuclear weapon, never does.
Hegseth said the United States has the military resources needed to resume operations while maintaining its commitments elsewhere in the world.
Our ability to recommence if necessary is we are more than capable. Our stockpiles are more than suited for that, both there and around the globe, because of how we balance exquisite and more plentiful munitions. So we're in a very good place.
Meanwhile, Washington has imposed new counter-terrorism sanctions targeting Iranian individuals and entities. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that the United States had seized $1 billion in Iranian cryptocurrency as part of its economic pressure campaign. With both sides still divided on key issues, the proposed US-Iran deal remains in limbo, raising questions over whether diplomacy can prevent a return to conflict. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, Iran's parliament is set to vote on a bill that will formalize the country's management of the Strait of Hormuz. A member of the Iranian parliament's presiding board said that lawmakers had reached a final decision to codify the management of the Strait of Hormuz and expected the plan to become law. He said that only Iran and Oman have the right to decide how the Strait of Hormuz should be managed, adding that Iran has begun consultations with Oman, which has expressed preliminary agreement, and that the plan could be finalized in the near future. Meanwhile, Iran's main military command in a statement said that the Iranian armed forces are exercising management over the Strait of Hormuz with full authority. The headquarters stressed that for passage through the waterway, all vessels including commercial ships and oil tankers are required to travel solely through the routes designated by Iran and obtain permission from the Navy of the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps. The headquarters warned that Iran's armed forces will respond to any action by military vessels to interfere in the strait's management or disrupt traffic through it. Now, US Central Command has said that it fired a Hellfire missile into the engine room of the Gambia flagged Lion Star as it was transiting international waters towards an Iranian port on the Gulf of Oman. Before the attack, US forces issued more than 20 warnings informing the vessel it was in violation of the US blockade. CENTCOM said the ship was no longer transiting to Iran but did not provide any further detail. US forces have disabled 5 commercial vessels and redirected 116 to fully enforce the blockade as the ceasefire with Iran remains in effect. The conflict has pushed up global energy prices as Iran has mostly closed the Strait of Hormuz. And fighting has continued unabated on the war's Lebanese front in spite of a separate ceasefire declared there. Israel's military issued evacuation warnings for more villages south Lebanon on Saturday, a day after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israeli forces had pushed more than 30 kilometers into the country. The Israeli military said more than 25 projectiles were launched from Lebanon towards Israel on Saturday, while air alert sirens sounded in the northern cities of Kharmail and Safed for the first time since the ceasefire. Israel and Lebanon began direct talks in April, with a 4th round expected next week. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam accused Israel of pursuing a scorched earth policy and collective punishment in his country's south and called for a swift and real ceasefire. Still, Salam defended his government's engagement with its southern neighbor after military delegations from both countries held security talks in Washington on Friday, with more US brokered negotiations planned next week.
I met this morning with the President of the Republic to assess the situation Lebanon is facing, particularly in light of the dangerous and unprecedented Israeli escalation in recent days, and the need to intensify political and diplomatic efforts to achieve a swift and lasting ceasefire. Therefore, we have consciously and responsibly decided to pursue the most appropriate option to protect Lebanon and Lebanese people under these circumstances, the option of negotiations. I will speak with complete candor. Are negotiations guaranteed to succeed? Certainly not. But today, they are the least costly path for our country and our people compared with the other available options.
Moving on to Russia-Ukraine tensions now, the International Atomic Energy Agency on Saturday said it has been informed by the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in southeastern Ukraine that a drone struck a turbine building at the site, reportedly causing a hole in its wall. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi expressed serious concern about the reported incident and said attacking nuclear sites is like playing with fire. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned on Saturday that intelligence indicating the possibility of a large-scale Russian strike remained valid and urged Ukrainians to heed air raid alerts and other safety warnings. Zelensky said in his evening address that Kiev is intensifying contacts with the United States and expects further visits and negotiations while preparing for new talks in Europe.
We are trying to activate all channels of communication with the United States of America. We expect that there will be visits and negotiation at the team level. We communicate about this constantly. We need to continue exchanges. There will be new negotiations in Europe as well, and we are currently preparing for them.
A drone strike in Romania has sparked sharp criticism from NATO allies, but Moscow is pushing back against accusations of responsibility. President Vladimir Putin argued that there is no evidence linking Russia to the incident, pointing instead to past cases where Ukrainian drones strayed into neighboring countries. He dismissed Western claims that Russia is preparing for war with Europe, calling such allegations lies and propaganda. Rahul Upadhyay brings us more.
A drone that smashed into a Romanian apartment building set off furious condemnation of Russia by Romania and its NATO allies on Friday. But President Vladimir Putin insisted there was no evidence to blame his country. Romania called the incident a serious and irresponsible escalation by its neighbor and expelled a Russian diplomat in its first response.
Госпожа фон дер Ляйен не была же в Румынии.
Ms. von der Leyen wasn't in Romania after all. She didn't examine the remains of this drone. No one can say where a particular aircraft originates from until it's examined. After all, we know that Ukrainian drones have flown into Finland, Poland, and elsewhere in the Baltic states. The initial reaction was exactly the same as now in Romania. Help, the Russians are coming. The Russians are shooting. Then a short time later, it turned out that these had nothing to do with Russian aircraft, but rather that these drones were of Ukrainian origin. They had strayed off course, were affected by electronic warfare, or for some other reason, or because of imperfect technical specifications, they had flown there and crashed.
Курса, они под воздействием РЭП или еще по каким-то причинам.
Ukrainian president said Russia is preparing a major new attack on Ukraine, citing intelligence data.
We have intelligence reports indicating that Russia is preparing a new major attack. Please pay attention to air raid warnings and stay safe. Our emergency services are prepared. Air Force and other air defenses will be on duty 24/7 as always.
Russian President Putin said there's no truth in Western claims that Russia was preparing for war with Europe.
Это бред. Делается это якобы...
This is nonsense. This is supposedly being done in connection with Russia's aggressive plans against Western European countries. This is a lie. It's a crude, brazen lie. And as Goebbels once said, the more unbelievable the lie, the more likely it will be believed. These are precisely the standards Western politicians and media are implementing in their daily practice. Russia has never had any aggressive intentions against European countries, and the tragedy unfolding in Ukraine is their doing.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian drone strikes targeted Russia's oil infrastructure overnight, damaging a tanker and an oil refinery in Tagarog and hitting an oil depot in Amawir. According to Russian regional officials and the Ukrainian military, Russia's defense ministry said its air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 127 Ukrainian drones overnight, including nearly 50 over the Rostov region, which borders Ukraine's Donbas region. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
All right, still to come on this edition of DD India NewsHour. Demonstrators clash outside ICE detention facility in New Jersey against Trump's policy. Four more men freed from flooded Lao cave after 10 days. Heatwave grips Spain in Western Europe, while widespread rainfall activity across large parts of India. We'll get you weather updates after the break.
India is home to some of the most venomous snakes in the world. 50,000 Indians almost die every year because of snake bites. And in that moment, knowing what to do can really help save a life.
Students know, they know climate change, they know global warming, they know plastics, they know microplastics. But they really know what it means on a daily basis. So the connect with the environment is missing. The connect to real life every day is missing.
A eucalypt in a new environment, you're very likely to change what we call fire regimes. So fire regimes are the patterns of fire across the landscape and through time.
We add the already colonized mycelium into this sort of jute bags, and we take it to the forest for the process of which is called mycoremediation, where we are introducing more mycelium in a certain ecosystem for basically helping the ecosystem to thrive more and also for the mycelium to grow in the same process.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. The US military on Saturday said it struck a vessel in the Eastern Pacific, killing 3 people said to be engaged in narco trafficking operations. It is the second strike in as many days. The country's Southern Command published videos said to show the strike along with the death toll. The US military launched Operation Southern Spear in early September, with President Donald Trump insisting the US is effectively at war with drug cartels operating out of Latin America. Now, Australia and the United States announced that the nations will streamline the AUKUS agreement regarding its purchase of nuclear-powered submarines, which will no longer include any new vessels. The two nations met at Singapore's Shangri-La Dialogue, which brings together top defense officials and experts from about 45 countries. Under the 2021 AUKUS deal, Australia is expected to receive at least 3 of so-called Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarines from the United States within 15 years. Australia had been expecting to receive 2 used and 1 new Virginia-class submarine. In United States, heavily armed police encircled New Jersey's Delania Hall Migrant Detention Center on Saturday as pro and anti-ICE activists faced off. The clashes happened one day after New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill ordered state police to assume control outside the detention center following a week of unrest. Sherrill, who has repeatedly called for the closure of Delaney Hall, said the aim was to ensure both freedom of assembly and public safety. Protesters have gathered outside Delaney Hall since last week as detainees launched a labour and hunger strike demanding release and highlighting inhumane conditions. The facility holds over 850 detainees, only around 100 with criminal convictions. US President Donald Trump has called for the cancellation of upcoming concerts celebrating America's 250th anniversary after several musical acts backed out. He said they should be replaced by a political rally headlined by himself shortly after they were announced as performers in a Washington concert series around the July 4 holiday. Multiple musical acts backed out, with some citing the event's politicization. The concerts were scheduled to kick off on June 25 as part of a major event on the National Mall organized by Freedom 250, a Trump-backed public-private entity. Now, Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi denied accusations of new militarism in a speech delivered at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, Asia's premier forum for defense leaders, militaries and diplomats. Remarks aimed at China, Japanese Defense Minister Koizumi said that there is a country that has a huge arsenal of nuclear weapons and strategic bombers. Japan has neither of such weapons, and yet Japan is labelled new militarism.
And let me say this as well. Differences in perception and friction do arise between nations. What is needed at such time is not a repetition of unfounded claims in the other side's absence. What is needed is direct and candid dialogue. And in fact, Japan's door to dialogue is always open.
In May, China's foreign ministry called on Asia-Pacific countries to be vigilant and jointly resist the reckless actions of Japan's new militarism. All right, moving on. Venezuela's Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, the opposition candidate who was recognized by the United States and others as the actual winner of the 2024 election against Nicolas Maduro, called for a new vote. The 76-year-old former diplomat who is living in exile in Spain also expressed support for opposition leader and Nobel laureate Maria Corina Machado, who wants fresh elections in the oil-rich South American nation. The announcement could add pressure on Venezuelan authorities and Washington to address growing demands for a democratic transition in the country following Maduro's ouster in January by a U.S. military raid. Now, Colombian authorities have called on candidates to respect the results of Sunday's vote ahead of the presidential election. The National Civil Register said the system used in electoral processes has proven to guarantee reliable elections. Local authorities said that 10,000 members of the security forces would be deployed across the region. This electoral process will have the largest international observation mission in the country's history, with 1,300 observers from 22 countries. Now, Nigerian opposition leader Peter Obi will contest the country's next presidential election after securing the nomination of the newly formed Nigeria Democratic Congress. Obi, who is the former governor of Anambra State, accepted the party's nomination on Saturday, setting up a likely rematch with President Bola Tinubu and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Local media reports suggest former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso would become Obi's running mate after both leaders joined the NDC following the collapse of efforts to form a united opposition coalition. Obi said Nigeria cannot thrive when citizens no longer feel safe, highlighting the country's persistent security challenges. Meanwhile, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu of All Progressives Congress has been nominated for re-election. Citizens are discontent with his economic reforms, which may challenge his bid for re-election. However, the government and analysts say the reforms have revived the economy and attracted investors. Tinubu won the 2023 presidential election with 36.6% of the vote, while Abubakar secured 29% and Obi received 25%. Hundreds of people marched in the streets of Peruvian capital Lima on Saturday in protest against presidential candidate Keiko Fujimori. At the front of the march were relatives of victims of human rights violations during the elder Fujimori's presidency between 1990 and 2000. The June 7 runoff vote is expected to be as heated as the 2021 ballot, which also involved Fujimori against Pedro Castillo, who won the vote but was removed from office in December 2022. The first round of voting on April 12 featured a record 35 candidates vying for the presidency, with Fujimori ultimately gaining 17.1% of the votes, while runner-up Pedro Sanchez captured 12%. Now, thousands of Austrians protesting against noise and pollution blocked a key European highway linking Germany and Italy on Saturday, but widely feared traffic chaos was averted. Protesters gathered on a stretch of the Brenner Pass road that crosses the Alps into Italy. Communities in Austria's western Tyrol province have long complained about the traffic, especially trucks. The protesters at Mattream Brenner called for an end to pollution, noise and traffic jams they say are plaguing local communities. Organizers said about 5,000 took part in the demonstration, while the fire service estimated around 4,500. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom has called for increased international support to help contain the Ebola outbreak in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Director General Tedros said stronger community engagement and efforts to counter misinformation are essential. Speaking in Bunia, the capital of Ituri province, he stressed that global funding and local community ownership are both critical to stopping the spread. According to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 1,000 suspected cases and at least 246 deaths have been reported in Congo since mid-May, with infections also confirmed in neighboring Uganda. The WHO has warned that the true scale of the outbreak may be larger due to limited testing capacity and ongoing insecurity in the region. Meanwhile, Uganda has closed its border with the Democratic Republic of Congo and imposed a 21-day quarantine for arrivals as authorities tried to prevent the spread of Ebola from the ongoing outbreak. The WHO also confirmed a patient had recovered after 2 negative tests, marking the first discharge in the current outbreak. More than 15,000 people have died from Ebola in Africa over the past 5 decades, with the deadliest outbreak in Congo between 2018 and 2020, claiming nearly 2,300 lives. 4 more men rescued after more than a week trapped in a flooded cave in Laos. The first of the 5 men was rescued on Friday, with footage shared on social media showing him emerging from a narrow crevice after rescuers guided the man through a water-filled tunnel, crawling on their hands and knees while wearing breathing apparatuses. 4 others were able to climb out by themselves on Saturday. 7 people are thought to have entered the maze-like cave network in Laos province on May 19 to look for gold, becoming trapped when heavy rain and flash flooding blocked the entrance. Moving on to some weather updates from across the world. Spain and parts of Western Europe are sweltering under an unusually early spell of summer heat, with temperatures nearing 40 degrees Celsius in some areas and raising concerns about a long hot season ahead. In the southern Spanish city of Sevilla, temperatures reached around 37 degrees Celsius on Saturday. Spain's national weather agency, AM IST, issued widespread yellow heat alerts across large parts of the country as the early season heat wave intensified. Forecasters say the conditions are more typical of midsummer than late May, highlighting the intensity of the current heat spell. Meanwhile, in France, meteorologists say powerful storms could soon bring relief from a record-breaking heat wave affecting parts of northern Europe. Temperatures in Paris and other regions remained above 30 degrees Celsius, while Britain and Portugal recorded their hottest May days on record. Weather officials expected cooler air to move in, but warned that severe thunderstorms, hail and strong winds may accompany the change. And the India Meteorological Department has forecast widespread rainfall activity across large parts of the country over the coming week, with thunderstorms, lightning, gusty winds and isolated heavy showers expected in several regions. In the northeast, scattered to fairly widespread rainfall is likely, with heavy rain and isolated places across Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh between May 30th and June 5. In southern India, active weather conditions are expected to continue, with thunderstorms and gusty winds over Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Some areas may also see heavy to very heavy rainfall. Across central, eastern, western and northern India, similar conditions are expected, including strong winds, hailstorms and dust storms in parts of Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Odisha. The MD has advised caution, warning that severe weather may persist intermittently over the coming days. A massive dust storm swept through Rajasthan's Churu district on Saturday afternoon, shrouding the sky in dust and turning day into night. Dramatic visuals show thick clouds of sand engulfing homes and drastically reducing visibility. The dust storm, which struck around 2 p.m., reduced visibility to just a few meters in several areas. Time now for another short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India NewsHour. Nation building has been a key theme over the past 12 years of the Modi government. Detailed report after the break. Multinational exercise Pragati concludes in Meghalaya, bringing together participants from 12 nations. And in a tragic incident in the national capital, a building collapses near Saket metro station.
Welcome to Jharkhand, the land of forests. Mesmerizing abundance of nature. Vast accumulation of natural resources. Rich legacy of contributing to India's economic foundations. preserving a vast and diverse tribal culture. With diverse offerings, Jharkhand is a haven for various tourism activities, shaping India's future generations with quality education, a breeding ground for future sports persons. Come experience the sheer richness of nature and culture, diversity of tribal heritage, traditions and craft, and progressive development and growth.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share thoughts in 134th episode of his monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat at 11 AM IST. India gets its new Chief of Defence Staff General NS Raja Subramani accorded Guard of Honour, pledges to strengthen country's security. US reiterates its warning of attacking Iran if no deal is reached as negotiators work to bridge major differences. Also, Iran Parliament set to vote on Strait of Hormuz management bill. Ebola spread in Congo deeply alarming as cases nearly double in days. WHO chief visits outbreak hit Bunia, expresses solidarity. And in sports, PSG beat Arsenal 4-3 on penalties to win UEFA Champions League finals. PSG just the 10th team to win successive titles in competition's 71-year history. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in Mann Ki Baat program at 11 AM IST. It will be the 134th episode of the monthly radio program. The program will be broadcast across the entire Akashvani and Doordarshan network. It will also be live streamed on the YouTube channels of DD News, DD India, the PMO and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. And Myanmar President U Min Aung Hlaing, who is on India visit, will attend Myanmar-India Business Forum today. During his visit to New Delhi, President Min Aung Hlaing will hold talks with Prime Minister Modi on further strengthening the historical and civilizational ties between the two countries. Myanmar lies at the confluence of India's Neighbourhood First, Act East and Mahasagar policies. The visit is expected to further strengthen and deepen the multifaceted relations between the two countries. On Saturday, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on Myanmar President in New Delhi. He appreciated the visiting leader's positive sentiment towards deepening the long-standing bilateral cooperation and looked forward to his talks with PM Modi to advance bilateral partnership for peace, progress and prosperity. And General NS Raja Subramani on Sunday took charge as India's new Chief of Defence Staff, and his primary mandate will be to implement the ambitious military theaterization plan and bolster tri-services synergy. General Subramani was given a ceremonial Guard of Honour at South Block in New Delhi as he begins his tenure as the country's top military officer. He succeeds General Anil Chauhan, who signed off after completing his tenure as the country's senior-most military commander on Saturday. Former Vice Chief of Army Staff Subramani previously served as military advisor at the National Security Council Secretariat. Speaking at the event, General Subramani said the Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, the Ministry of Defence, strategic institutions and all stakeholders stand united in a whole-of-nation approach to strengthen India's security.
I am honoured to assume charge as the Chief of Defence Staff. We, the Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, Ministry of Defence, strategic institutions and all stakeholders stand united as part of the whole-of-nation approach to strengthen India's security. We are committed to implement the vision of our Honourable Prime Minister, Jai, jointness, Atmanirbharta and innovation.
Over the last 12 years of Prime Minister Modi's government, the idea of freeing India from the mindset of colonial slavery has emerged as a major national narrative. 12 years of nation building. After assuming office in 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi sent a clear message that terrorism would not be tolerated at any cost. And adhering to this policy of zero tolerance towards terrorism, the Narendra Modi government launched Operation Sindoor following the brutal killing of 26 innocent tourists by Pakistani terrorists in the Baisaran Valley of Pahalgam on 22nd April 2025. DD India's Vishal Baristo reports.
India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers.
Under Operation Sindoor, India not only delivered a crushing response to Pakistan across economic, political, diplomatic and military fronts, but also demonstrated once again to the entire world that Bharat stands resolute in its policy of zero tolerance towards terrorism. Launched on the intervening night of May 6th and 7th, Operation Sindoor saw Indian Army strike and completely obliterate 9 terrorist hideouts located within Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This military action by the Indian Army resulted in the elimination of over 100 terrorists. The Indian Air Force targeted key Pakistani installations including the Noor Khan and Sargodha air bases, sending an unequivocal message that no terrorist sanctuary within Pakistan lies beyond India's reach.
It was very strong political will, extraordinary resolve to really inflict the kind of damage on these terror hubs and their backers. And something that was a clear message to the backers in Pakistan and to the world in general that this is how we will deal with terror. Thereafter, 9th and 10th, what you saw when 11 bases were attacked by Air Force in terms of precision weapons, every base target was hit, all attacks were successful, and the kind of damage, the kind of airfield struck, length and width of Pakistan, you take Sargodha, you take Noor Khan, you take Jacobabad, Bolari, these are, very heavily defended and very, very vital targets for Pakistan Air Force and Pakistan Defence as such. So overall, I think that indicated the kind of targeting that was done and successful.
Operation Sindoor was a highly successful, precise and calibrated military operation executed by the Indian Armed Forces, which effectively shattered the enemy's morale. It served to underscore the professional prowess, operational readiness and synchronized strength of our armed forces. Paying tribute to this act of military valor, Prime Minister Modi, while addressing the nation from the ramparts of the Red Fort on August 15, 2025, began his speech by first saluting the heroes of Operation Sindoor.
मुझे बहुत गर्व हो रहा है आज मुझे
लाल किले की प्राचीर से ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के वीर जाबाजों को सैल्यूट करने का अवसर मिला है। हमारे वीर जाबाज सैनिकों ने दुश्मनों को उनकी कल्पना से परे सजा दी है।
Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the success of Operation Sindoor stands as a tangible testament to India's growing self-reliance in defense and the fortified strength of its national security. The abeyance of the Indus Water Treaty is another resolve of the Modi government that blood and water shall not flow together.
देश का अहित करने वाला ये समझौता अब इस रूप में आगे नहीं चल सकता। भारत ने तय कर दिया है, खून और पानी साथ साथ नहीं बह सकते।
But it was not the first time in the last 12 years that India had crossed the LOC to punish state-sponsored terrorism. Following the terrorist attack on an army camp in Uri on September 18, 2016, the Indian Army's Para-Special Forces conducted a precise ground-based operation on September 29th, crossing the line of control to neutralize several terrorist launch pads in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Nearly 3 years later, in response to the Pulwama terrorist attack, the Indian Air Force executed the Balakot airstrike on February 26, 2019. In this non-military preemptive action, Mirage 2000 fighter jets crossed the international border to strike a major Jaish-e-Mohammed training camp in Balakot, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In the face of terror, the country stands tall and speaks with strength. Any threat to national security is now dealt with immediate and decisive action, because this is new Bharat. So enemy, beware. Vishal Baristo for DD India, Delhi.
And with the focus on counter-insurgency, building trust, the maiden edition of multilateral exercise Pragati 2026 concluded successfully at Umroi military station in Meghalaya. The event marked the successful culmination of a landmark multinational engagement, bringing together over 400 troops from 12 friendly foreign countries. The exercise fostered camaraderie and enhanced operational synergy. Conducted in the spirit of partnership and shared responsibility, Exercise Pragati reinforced the collective commitment towards peace, stability and security in the Indian Ocean region. Participating nations also witnessed an indigenous defense industry demonstration. It highlighted India's growing technological and defense manufacturing capabilities and underscored the nation's commitment towards Atmanirbhar Bharat and indigenous solutions for future-ready military operations. A huge influx of tourists during the long weekend has led to severe traffic congestion on Manali-Rohtang route in Himachal Pradesh, the 50-kilometer journey taking up to 8 hours for many travellers. Driven by soaring temperatures across the plains and the attraction of late-season snow, thousands of tourists have flocked to Rohtang Pass, located at an altitude of around 13,000 feet. The rush resulted in long queues of vehicles stretching for kilometers, bringing traffic movement to a near-complete standstill. Officials estimate that around 11,000 vehicles are currently passing through the Atal Tunnel daily, with tourist numbers expected to rise further in the coming days. In a tragic incident in Himachal Pradesh's Chamba district, 8 people, including 2 children and a driver, killed after a vehicle carrying tourists met with an accident, prompting authorities to launch a search and rescue operation in the remote mountainous region. The missing persons include 2 couples and 2 children from Bengaluru who had travelled to Dalhousie for a holiday. The group left on Friday for a trip along the Bairagarh-Kela route via Sach Pass. Another tragic incident occurred in the national capital on Saturday evening, where several people were trapped after a 4-story under-construction building collapsed near Saket metro station. At least 9 people were rescued. Also, relief operation underway to save more lives trapped under the debris. Rescue teams involved in the operation said several people had already been pulled out from the rubble. However, preliminary estimates suggest that 6 to 7 individuals could still be trapped inside. Heavy machinery and emergency personnel continue to be used in the search and rescue efforts. According to the eyewitnesses, the multi-story structure housed several offices and commercial establishments. Since the incident took place on a weekend, the number of people present inside the building was significantly lower than on weekdays, where the premises would usually witness heavy footfall. Still to come on this edition of DD India NewsHour. Celebrations after Paris Saint-Germain's Champions League victory turned chaotic in Paris, on leading to hundreds of arrests. And stage is set for a thrilling IPL final as Royal Challengers Bengaluru take on Gujarat Titans at Ahmedabad's Narendra Modi Stadium.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Sports updates now. We'll start with badminton. Star Indian duo of Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty stormed into the Singapore Open badminton tournament final on Saturday. The Indian pair prevailed over reigning world champions Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung-jae of South Korea 21-19, 21-18 in the semi-finals. The match was a closely contested affair, with Ho and Jae holding a narrow lead at the break in the opening game. But Satvik and Chirag made a remarkable comeback by earning crucial points to pocket the opening game. It was not smooth sailing for the Indian duo in the second game as well, but they maintained their composure to come from behind and upset the Korean pair. Meanwhile, it was curtains for Dhruv Kapila and Tanisha Crasto as they lost 16-21, 21-17, 13-21 against the Japanese pair of Yuichi Shimogami and Sayaka Hobara in the mixed doubles semi-finals. Football now. French football club Paris Saint-Germain has made history by winning the UEFA Champions League for the second year in a row. PSG defeated Arsenal 4-3 in a penalty shootout after the match ended 1-1 following extra time at the Puskas Arena in Budapest, Hungary. And celebrations after Paris Saint-Germain Champions League victory turned chaotic in parts of Paris on Saturday night, leading to hundreds of arrests. PSG defeated Arsenal 4-3 in a penalty shootout in a thrilling Champions League final held in Budapest. According to France's Interior Ministry, at least 326 people were arrested across the country, including 235 in Paris alone. And the stage is set for a thrilling IPL 2026 finale as Royal Challengers Bengaluru take on Gujarat Titans at Ahmedabad's Narendra Modi Stadium. RCB entered the summit clash with confidence after their dominant win over GT in Qualifier 1, while Gujarat Titans have stormed back into contention following a stunning chase in Qualifier 2 against Rajasthan Royals. With Virat Kohli, Shubman Gill, Sai Sudarshan and Rashid Khan among the stars on show, fans can expect a high-octane battle as two of the season's best teams fight for the coveted IPL trophy. All right, let's go across to DD India's Narayan Singh. He is joining us to talk more on this. Narayan, in a clash between two evenly matched teams, tell us about the journey of both the sides in the season and who you think has an edge today.
Abhishek, if we talk about this tournament, both the teams finished in the top two position in the standing of the IPL 2026 points table, and both have 18 points, and there was a difference because of the net run rate, and RCB was at the top, and we saw a steady cricket by the RCB in this tournament, while the journey of the Gujarat Titans was quite roller coaster. They started with losing two matches, again they came on the winning streak, that it was something like that. But finally, they finished in the top 2 and they played the qualifier 1 against each other, and we know what was the result. Gujarat Titans lost that match, and after that they played the qualifier 2 against Rajasthan Royal, where they won by a big margin, and finally they are in the finals against the RCB. RCB again, they will try to defend the title. And so most important thing is Abhishek, if you take a look, I would like to mention the journey of this Gujarat Titans team, because they even could not spend more than 24 hours at the place where they are trying to win their second IPL trophy, because on 26th they played qualifier 1 and they lost that match in Dharamshala, and after that they shifted to New Chandigarh for the qualifier 2, where they defeated Rajasthan Royals, and after that, because of the bad weather, their flight was delayed and they reached late night on Saturday in Ahmedabad. So that's the big, we can say, that headache for the Shubman Gill's team, that they even couldn't have a practice session before this high octane match in the Ahmedabad. But when the question was asked to Shubman Gill, he said that okay, there is a physical advantage with the Royal Challengers Bangalore, but the finals, the big matches are played on the mental plane.
Yes.
And in that context they are quite confident because of the home conditions are in their favor. And we know that the Gujarat, what kind of team they are, they play slow and steady cricket. If you take a look, their run rate in the power play on the first 10 overs is around 9, but towards the end they play a fluent cricket. That's why they are surviving here and hoping that another cracker of a contest will be displayed in Ahmedabad today.
Yes, another cracker of a contest is expected, and the final is expected to draw more than 1 lakh spectators. The atmosphere promises to be electric. But Narayan, the contest will also test the leadership of Shubman Gill and Rajat Patidar too. And in finals, like you said, it's more about who handles the pressure well.
Definitely, we know that Shubman Gill's journey, he was we can say that in the Indian team also, he faced many adversities in the recent past. He was dropped from the T20 World Cup, and after that there is a point to prove for the Shubman Gill, and we know that he is proving that thing. And we know that his team, his bowling, the bowlers, if you take a look, their performance, it's fantastic. The Kagiso Rabada has taken 28 wickets this season so far, and he's the holder of the purple cap. Talking about the Rashid Khan, 19 wickets, Mohammad Siraj, 18 wickets, and Jason Holder. Since the Jason Holder has been introduced in the Gujarat Titans squad, they were in a different plane. In the 10 matches or 11 matches, he has taken 17 wickets with an economy of 7.54. So we can say that this team has better bowlers. If you take a look at the strike rate of the Gujarat Titans bowlers overall is 16, and when it comes to playing in the Ahmedabad, it comes down to 13 point something. So it shows that they are better equipped, and the Shubman Gill has a better bowlers than the Royal Challengers Bangalore. But talking about the bowlers of the Bangalore, apart from, I think, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, no bowler, even the Hazelwood, is not clicking as expected, because we know that apart from Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Krunal Pandya is there in the tandems. He is capable to take the wickets, but there is a point to prove for the Shubman Gill, and Rajat Patidar too is a quiet captain, and we know that last year he won the title, and the challenge will be there to defend the title, and he along with his team would like to come in the league of the Chennai Super Kings and the Mumbai Indians to defend the IPL title.
Yes, one game separates the two teams from glory, and the match will start at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for inputs, Narayan. Tennis now. Former world number 1 Naomi Osaka had to dig deep for a hard-fought 7-6, 6-7, 6-4 victory over American teenager Eva Jovic to reach the French Open 4th round for the first time. 18-year-old Jovic looked completely at ease despite her lack of big stage experience as she pushed Osaka to a first set tiebreak. Osaka managed to subdue the American in the tiebreak to bag the first set, but Jovic won the second set to level. The third set was again on a razor's edge, but the Japanese kept her composure to avoid a third set tiebreak and sealed the match. Meanwhile, world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka beat Australia's Daria Kasatkina 6-0, 7-5 to seal her place in the 4th round. The 28-year-old restored order with a commanding display to book a tantalizing meeting with Osaka. It was a 100th victory as the world number 1, making her the 9th player to achieve the feat since the inception of the WTA rankings. With the men's side of the draw wide open following the shock early exits of top seeds, Flavio Cobolli laid down a marker with an emphatic victory over Lerner Tien. The Italian 10th seed beat the American 6-2, 6-2, 6-3. Cobolli will next meet Zashari Swider with a spot in the quarterfinals on the line. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.